Commander stared at the blue planet rotating slowly on his display screen. Earth, the locals called it. A simple world, really. One sun, one moon, plenty of water. The databank said these humans had only just started reaching beyond their own atmosphere. They had primitive rockets, some satellites, nothing that could threaten a proper military force. They had done this 47 times before. 47 worlds conquered, 47 species brought into the empire. The process was always the same and it always worked. First, they sent down the drones, thousands of them spreading across the planet like a silver swarm. The drones would map everything: military bases, power plants, communication centers, weapons facilities. They flew fast, turned quickly, and could fix themselves if damaged. Most importantly, they were nearly invisible to primitive sensors. Once the mapping was complete, the real work began. The bombardment fleet would fire from orbit, destroying key targets one by one. Military first, then infrastructure. By the time the ground troops landed, resistance was usually minimal. Most species surrendered within days. Some fought longer, but the outcome never changed. Check the drone deployment one final time. 3,000 autonomous units, each one worth more than a small spacecraft. They would drop through the atmosphere in waves, spreading across every continent. In 12 hours, they would have a complete tactical picture. In 24 hours, the bombardment would begin. "Launch the drones," he ordered. The deployment bays opened. Silver shapes poured out into the void, then arced downward toward the waiting planet. Watched them go with satisfaction. This would be conquest number 48, a nice, clean operation. On Earth, the objects appeared on radar screens across the world almost simultaneously. Military installations from Nevada to Norway, from Japan to South Africa, all saw the same thing. Unknown contacts, descending fast, spreading out in patterns that suggested intelligence and purpose. At Firebase Delta in the Nevada desert, alarms screamed. Sergeant Maria ran to her station, her crew already scrambling to their positions. The sun had just risen, painting the desert sand gold and red. It should have been a beautiful morning. Instead, it looked like the morning the world might end. "What we got?" Maria shouted over the alarm. "Unknowns, Sarge, lots of them. Coming down from high altitude, speed increasing. They're spreading out across the whole sector." Maria grabbed her headset and checked the radar display. The objects were moving at incredible speeds, faster than most aircraft. But they were in the atmosphere now, and in the atmosphere, speed wasn't everything. In the atmosphere, you could be shot down. "All units, this is Delta Command," the voice came through the radio. "We have unknown aerial contacts, origin unknown, intent unknown. You are authorized to engage. Repeat, you are authorized to engage." Maria's crew looked at her. They had trained for this moment, though none of them had ever expected it to actually happen. They were anti-aircraft specialists. Their entire job was shooting things out of the sky. It didn't matter if those things were missiles, aircraft, or something else entirely. If it flew, they could kill it. "Light them up," Maria ordered. The first drone streaked across the sky at Mach 2, its surface shifting colors to match the background. On the flagship, watched through the drone's sensors. Below, he could see a human military installation. Primitive concrete structures, metal vehicles, soft-skinned bipeds running around in panic. Easy targets for the coming bombardment. Then the world exploded. The drone's sensors registered the incoming projectile for exactly 0.3 seconds before impact. A solid metal slug, traveling at hypersonic velocity, struck the drone's midsection and detonated. The explosion tore the drone into pieces too small to repair. The feed went black. Blinked, one drone lost. Unfortunate but acceptable. These humans had gotten lucky. Another feed went black, then another, then 5 more in quick succession. "Status report," barked. "Sir, we're losing drones across multiple sectors. North American continent, European continent, Asian continent. They're shooting them down." "That's impossible. Our drones have full countermeasures. Energy weapon, sensor scramblers, evasive protocols. Sir, they're not using energy weapons. They're using kinetic projectiles. Explosive rounds, proximity fuses, solid slugs. The countermeasures don't work against them. Pulled up the tactical display. The screen showed Earth's surface with dots representing each drone. As he watched, the dots began disappearing. Not in ones or twos, but in dozens. The humans were coordinating their fire across vast distances, creating zones where his drones simply ceased to exist. Maria's crew worked with practiced efficiency. The targeting computer tracked incoming objects, calculating trajectories and intercept points. The weapons system fired in coordinated bursts, filling the air with explosive rounds. 3 drones had already fallen, their wreckage scattered across the desert floor. "Got another one," someone shouted. Maria watched the explosion bloom in the distance. The alien machines were fast, but they flew in predictable patterns. They seemed designed for space combat, not for dodging anti-aircraft fire in a planetary atmosphere. Every evasive maneuver brought them into someone else's firing solution. "Delta Command, this is Firebase Delta. We've splashed 4 targets, we're tracking 2 more. Ammunition holding steady." "Copy that, Delta. Good shooting. Be advised you've got more incoming from the northwest. 15 targets, high altitude, descending fast." "Roger that, we'll be ready." Around the world, the same scene played out in different languages with different equipment. Russian S-400 systems tracked and eliminated drones over Siberia. Chinese anti-aircraft batteries filled the sky with shrapnel over Beijing. British Rapier missiles streaked upward from installations across the UK. American Patriot batteries worked overtime, their crews handling target after target with grim efficiency. The humans didn't know what they were fighting, not yet, but they knew how to fight it. They had spent over a century perfecting the art of shooting things out of the sky. World wars, Cold Wars, regional conflicts, all of it had driven innovation in anti-aircraft warfare. Radar systems, targeting computers, proximity fuses, guided missiles. Every technological advancement had been tested in combat, refined and improved. The drones were sophisticated machines, far beyond human technology in many ways, but they were designed by a species that had never needed to worry about anti-aircraft fire. The fought in space, where combat was clean and simple, energy weapons and missiles in the void, nothing to dodge except other spacecraft. The concept of surface-to-air warfare was foreign to them. Watched his tactical display with growing horror. In 4 hours, he had lost over 800 drones. The humans were using weapons that shouldn't have been effective. Old cannons firing explosive shells, missiles guided by radar, even what appeared to be modified aircraft armed with air-to-air weapons. They were throwing everything they had into the sky, and it was working. "Pull back the southern continent deployment," he ordered. "Redirect to ocean areas, away from land-based defenses." The drones shifted course, swarms moving away from populated areas toward open water. Surely the humans wouldn't have defenses in the middle of the ocean. The first drone swarm encountered USS John Jones 300 miles off the California coast. The Burke-class destroyer's AN Spy-1 radar system tracked every drone within a 100-mile radius. The ship's vertical launch system fired a dozen SM-2 missiles in rapid succession. Each missile found its target. "Surface engagement successful," the captain reported. "Targets destroyed, no damage to the ship." Pulled the ocean deployment as well. Wherever the drones went, the humans had weapons waiting. Mobile launchers on trucks, aircraft flying combat air patrols, ships at sea, even soldiers with shoulder-mounted missiles. The entire planet was one massive anti-aircraft network. By hour 6, 70% of the drone fleet was gone. The remaining units fled upward, back toward the safety of space. Watched them go, his mind struggling to process what had just happened. The humans had destroyed a drone fleet. A fleet that had mapped 47 worlds without significant loss had been decimated in less than a day. In the Nevada desert, Maria and her crew watched the last drone disappear into the sky. The base was quiet now, the alarm finally silenced. Spent shell casings littered the ground around their position. The air smelled of cordite and hot metal. "Think they're gone?" someone asked. Maria looked up at the sky, where the alien ship still hung in orbit. "I don't know, but if they come back, we'll be ready." She thought about the training exercises, the countless hours spent tracking practice targets, the competition shoots where crews from different nations tried to prove who was faster, more accurate, deadlier. All of that had been preparation for fighting other humans. But it turned out those skills worked just fine against aliens too. Around the world, military commanders compiled reports and damage assessments. The engagement had lasted 6 hours. Human losses, minimal. Enemy losses, catastrophic. Whatever those things had been, they weren't coming back anytime soon. On the flagship, began composing his report to High Command. This was going to be difficult to explain. The humans were supposed to be primitive, barely capable of. Instead, they had just demonstrated the most sophisticated atmospheric defense network they had ever encountered. The blue planet rotated peacefully on his display screen, looking deceptively harmless. Had learned an important lesson today. Never underestimate a species based on their space technology. These humans might not have faster-than-light travel, but they knew how to defend their sky. And that, he realized with growing dread, was going to be a very serious problem. The conference room on the flagship held every senior officer from the Bombardment fleet. Holographic displays showed the aftermath of the drone deployment. Charts and graphs documented the losses in stark detail. Grand Admiral and sat at the head of the table, his expression unreadable. "Commander," the Admiral said quietly, "explain to me how we lost 2,847 drones in 6 hours. Stood, activating his presentation. "Sir, the humans have an advanced anti-aircraft capability, far more advanced than our intelligence suggested." "Impossible. Our intelligence reports show they barely have capability. They use chemical rockets. Their weapons are primitive." "Their space technology is primitive, sir. Their atmospheric warfare capability is not." Brought up footage from the surviving drones. "This is Firebase Delta, Nevada, North American continent. Watch what happens when our drone passes overhead." The footage showed the desert installation from above. Humans scrambled around their equipment, moving with obvious training and purpose. Then the screen flashed white as the drone was destroyed. "They tracked it," someone asked. "Tracked it, targeted it, and destroyed it in under 5 seconds. And that's not the concerning part." Switched to another feed. "This is what happened across the entire planet." The display showed a time-lapse map of Earth with red dots indicating drone losses. The dots appeared slowly at first, then faster and faster until the continents were covered in red. They coordinated their response globally. Different nations, different military forces, all working together to create overlapping fields of fire. "But how?" and leaned forward. "Our drones have stealth technology, evasive capabilities, self-repair systems. They're designed to survive hostile environments." "They're designed to survive space combat environments, sir, not atmospheric combat environments." Pulled up technical schematics. "Our countermeasures are optimized against energy weapons and guided munitions in vacuum. The humans used kinetic projectiles with proximity fuses, explosive fragmentation rounds, and ballistic targeting solutions. Our systems weren't built to counter those threats." Another officer spoke up. "Surely they can't maintain that level of defense indefinitely. We could simply overwhelm them with numbers." Shook his head. "Analysis suggests otherwise. The humans have stockpiles of anti-aircraft ammunition that could sustain their defense for months, and they manufacture more every day. They have entire industries dedicated to producing these weapons." He brought up more footage. This is a weapons factory in the human nation called Germany. This one is in America. This one is in China. They make anti-aircraft systems the way we make ration packs. It's a mature technology for them, refined over generations. And studied the images. Factories, production lines, warehouses full of missiles and ammunition. Why would a species dedicate so many resources to shooting down their own aircraft? Because they do it constantly, sir. They fight each other. Pulled up historical data that the reconnaissance drones had captured before their destruction. These are human military conflicts from the last century. Notice anything. The displays showed battles from World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the Middle East, dozens of smaller conflicts. In every one, aircraft filled the skies, and ground forces worked frantically to shoot them down. They've been perfecting anti-aircraft warfare for over 100 years, continued. Not against alien invaders, against each other. They developed radar, proximity fuses, guided missiles, all because they needed better ways to kill their own aircraft. The room fell silent. The concept was difficult to grasp. They had unified as a species before developing. Most civilized species did. The idea of spending centuries fighting among themselves while simultaneously developing advanced technology seemed wasteful and chaotic. Show me their doctrine, and ordered. Displayed captured military manuals, training materials, and tactical guidelines. Their anti-aircraft doctrine is comprehensive. They categorize threats by altitude, speed, and maneuverability. They have weapons for every category. Low altitude, slow targets get shot by rapid-fire cannons. Medium altitude, fast targets get missiles. High altitude, hypersonic targets get specialized interceptors. He zoomed in on a technical manual. They train constantly. They run exercises, competitions between different units to see who can shoot down practice targets faster. They even have international competitions where different nations try to demonstrate superior anti-aircraft capabilities. They treat it as sport, someone asked incredulously. Some of them, yes, but mostly they treat it as survival, because for most of their history, controlling the sky meant winning wars, and they fought a lot of wars. And stood and walked to the display showing Earth. So we cannot deploy drones safely. What about manned reconnaissance craft? Worse, sir. A manned craft is larger, easier to track, and carries pilots who need to be trained and equipped. The humans demonstrated they can shoot down small, fast, maneuverable drones. A manned reconnaissance craft would be an easier target. We'd be sending our people into a kill zone. Bombardment from orbit, then. We don't need reconnaissance if we can simply destroy their military capacity from space. Hesitated. Sir, without reconnaissance data, we'd be firing blind. We don't know where all their military installations are. We don't know where their anti-aircraft batteries are positioned. And based on what we've seen, they can move those batteries quickly. Mobile launchers on vehicles, ships at sea, even aircraft that carry anti-aircraft missiles. Surely some bombardment would degrade their capabilities. It might, sir, but consider the cost. Every orbital strike uses expensive munitions. We'd need to fire thousands of them to saturate the planet, and we still wouldn't know if we'd hit anything important. The humans could simply move their defenses, and we'd be wasting ammunition. Another officer raised a tentacle. What about landing ground forces directly? Drop troops far from their military installations, let them secure territory and establish forward bases. That requires transport ships entering the atmosphere, sir. The same atmosphere where the humans just shot down nearly 3,000 drones. Any transport ship would be targeted immediately. And unlike drones, transports are large, slow, and full of soldiers. The casualties would be catastrophic. The room fell into uncomfortable silence. Every standard invasion tactic required some form of atmospheric presence. Drones for reconnaissance, manned craft for detailed surveys, transport ships for troops, gunships for ground support. All of it required flying through an atmosphere that the humans had turned into a death trap. And returned to his seat. Recommendations. We need to study these humans more carefully, sir. Our standard doctrine assumes that pre-FTL species are militarily inferior. That assumption may be incorrect. These humans are inferior in space, but in their own atmosphere, they're more dangerous than anything we've encountered. You're suggesting we abort the invasion based on one engagement. I'm suggesting we abort the invasion based on the cost-benefit analysis, sir. To conquer Earth using current tactics would require replacing our entire drone fleet, probably multiple times. It would require accepting heavy casualties among pilots and ground forces. It would require expending enormous amounts of ammunition, all to conquer a species that has no faster-than-light capability and poses no threat to the Empire beyond their own atmosphere. Pulled up a financial projection. The economic cost of conquering Earth exceeds the economic value of adding them to the Empire. It's not worth it, sir. And studied the numbers for a long moment. Around the table, other officers did the same. The conclusion was obvious, even if it was unprecedented. They had never retreated from an invasion before, but they'd never encountered a situation like this before either. I need to consult with High Command, and finally said, maintain orbital position. No further deployments until I give the order. Meeting dismissed. The officers filed out, leaving him alone with the display showing Earth. The blue planet looked so peaceful from orbit, beautiful, even. But now he saw it differently. That wasn't just a planet down there. It was a fortress. Every square kilometer protected by humans who had spent their entire history learning to kill anything that flew through their sky. On Earth, military analysts pored over the wreckage of destroyed drones. The pieces had been collected from crash sites around the world and shipped to research facilities. Scientists worked around the clock, trying to understand the technology. At Area 51, Dr. Sarah examined a mostly intact drone core. The technology was decades ahead of anything human-made. The power source was some kind of compact fusion reactor. The sensors operated on principles that human physics barely understood. The materials were lightweight and incredibly strong. But the armor is thin, she noted, running her hand over the fractured hull. Really thin. Look at this. Our standard 30mm explosive round went straight through. This material is strong against energy weapons, probably disperses heat really well, but it shatters under kinetic impact. Colonel Reeves stood beside her, because they don't expect kinetic impacts. Exactly. Think about space combat. You're not using bullets in space. Too slow, too hard to aim over long distances. You use lasers, particle beams, maybe missiles with sophisticated guidance systems. This armor is optimized for that kind of combat, but useless against good old-fashioned flak. Doctor nodded. We've been shooting things out of the sky since World War II. We've gotten really, really good at it. These drones are sophisticated, but they're designed to operate where nobody shoots at them with guns. Reeves looked at the reports from around the world. Kill ratios, ammunition expenditure, tactical assessments. The picture was clear. Humanity had faced its first test against an alien military force, and humanity had won. Not because human technology was superior. It wasn't. But because humans had specialized in one particular type of warfare that the aliens had never needed to develop. What do you think they'll do next? Doctor asked. I think they'll leave, Reeves said. They wanted an easy conquest. We just showed them it won't be easy. Maybe they'll come back with better technology. Maybe they'll decide we're not worth the trouble. Either way, we bought ourselves time. He walked to the window looking out at the desert. Somewhere up there, alien warships still hung in orbit, but they hadn't fired. They hadn't sent more drones. They were waiting, deciding what to do next. Make sure every anti-aircraft battery stays on alert, Reeves ordered. If they come back, we'll be ready. Doctor returned to examining the drone. Each piece told a story about the species that built it, a species that traveled between stars but had never needed to worry about someone shooting them down, a species that probably considered themselves invincible until they ran into humans. "Colonel," she said quietly, "do you think there are more of them out there, more alien species?" "Probably. Space is big." "Do you think they all fight the way these ones fight?" Reeves considered the question. "I don't know, but I'll tell you what I do know. We spent 10,000 years fighting each other. All those wars, all that death and destruction, we learned from it. We got good at killing, really good. Maybe that's not something to be proud of, but today it saved us." He turned back to the window. "If there are more aliens out there, they're going to learn something about humanity. We might not have their technology, we might not have their starships, but we own our sky, and anyone who forgets that is going to have a very bad day." Grand Admiral and stood before the Galactic Council, his image projected across light years to the council chamber. The assembled representatives of 24 species watched him with varying degrees of attention. Most of them had heard preliminary reports. Most of them were skeptical. "The invasion of System 7824, locally called Earth, has been suspended and began. I am recommending permanent abandonment of conquest operations against the dominant species, who call themselves humans." A counselor from the collective spoke up. "Suspended? One planet? This is unprecedented, Admiral. What possible reason could justify abandoning an operation against a pre-FTL species?" And activated his presentation. "If you'll review the data, the reasons become clear." The display showed the engagement statistics. 3,000 drones deployed, 2,847 destroyed. Mission time, 6 hours. Casualties, 0. Drone casualties, 95%. The council chamber filled with surprised murmurs. "How is this possible?" another counselor demanded. "Your drones are military-grade reconnaissance units. They've operated successfully on 47 worlds." "Yes," and agreed. 47 worlds where the dominant species had minimal or non-existent anti-aircraft capabilities. Earth is different. He showed footage from the engagement. The council watched in silence as drone after drone fell from the sky, destroyed by weapons that seemed primitive but were devastatingly effective. "The humans," and continued, "have developed a military specialty that we lack. They call it anti-aircraft warfare or air defense. They've spent over a century perfecting it." Why would any species dedicate so many resources to shooting down their own aircraft? The counselor seemed genuinely puzzled. "Because they fought each other constantly while developing their technology. They had wars that involved thousands of aircraft, and they needed ways to stop those aircraft. So they developed radar, guided missiles, proximity fuses, coordinated fire control. All of it designed to kill flying objects in a planetary atmosphere." And brought up more detailed analysis. "Their doctrine is comprehensive. They have weapons categorized by target type, altitude, speed, maneuverability. They train constantly. They maintain stockpiles of ammunition. And most importantly, they're very, very good at it." "Surely you could adapt your tactics," someone suggested. "Adapt how? Our entire invasion strategy relies on atmospheric superiority. Drones for reconnaissance, gunships for ground support, transports for troop deployment. All of it requires flying through an environment where the humans can track and kill anything that moves." Commander, attending virtually, added his analysis. "We ran simulations. To successfully invade Earth using conventional tactics would require accepting losses of 60 to 70% of all atmospheric craft. That includes transports full of soldiers. The casualty projections are unacceptable." "Bombardment from orbit then," a counselor suggested. "Without reconnaissance data, orbital bombardment is economically inefficient. We'd be firing blind, hopping to hit military targets we can't see. The humans can move their defenses. They have mobile launchers, ships at sea, aircraft that can relocate quickly. We'd expend massive amounts of ammunition for minimal confirmed kills. And pulled up the economic analysis. The cost of conquering Earth, accounting for drone replacement, ammunition expenditure, projected casualties, and extended campaign duration, exceeds the economic value of adding their planet to the empire. In simple terms, it costs more to conquer them than they're worth. The council chamber fell quiet. Several counselors reviewed the data independently, running their own calculations. The math was clear. "This is embarrassing," the counselor finally said. "We're the most advanced military force in the sector. We have faster-than-light travel, energy weapons, artificial gravity. And you're saying we can't conquer one primitive planet because they're good at shooting things down." "Not just good, counselor, exceptionally good, the best we've ever encountered. And it's not about embarrassment, it's about practical reality. We can't establish atmospheric presence without catastrophic losses. Without atmospheric presence, we can't invade. Therefore, invasion is impossible without fundamental changes to our doctrine." And let that sink in for a moment before continuing. There's another factor to consider. The humans don't have FTL travel. They can't threaten us beyond their own atmosphere. They have no colonies, no off-world military presence. They're contained to their single planet. From a strategic perspective, they pose zero threat to the Empire. "So we leave them alone?" another counselor asked. "After deploying a full bombardment fleet?" "We leave them alone," and confirmed. "We mark their system as contested territory, not worth the resource investment. Other species are welcome to try if they think they can succeed where we couldn't. But I'm recommending we update our classification of Earth in the Galactic database." "What classification do you suggest?" "Atmospheric denial specialists. Invasion not recommended without specialized countermeasures." A counselor from a species whose name translated roughly as the harmonics spoke up. "Admiral, I've reviewed your data. I agree with your assessment, but I'm curious about something. These humans spent centuries fighting each other, yes?" "Correct. And during those centuries, they developed increasingly sophisticated ways to contest control of their atmosphere." "Also correct. That suggests a species that dedicates enormous resources to warfare. A militaristic culture. Combined with their effectiveness against your drones, I would classify them as potentially dangerous if they ever develop faster-than-light capability." And nodded slowly. "That's a valid concern. However, it's a concern for future councils to address. At present, they're contained. Watching them develop might provide valuable intelligence on their capabilities and intentions. Or give them time to become a serious threat. Perhaps, but attempting to eliminate them now would be catastrophic. We'd lose too many ships, too many soldiers, too much equipment. The Empire would be weakened fighting a pre-FTL species that can't actually harm us beyond their own planet. That's not strategy. That's pride. And pride is expensive." The counselor made a gesture of agreement. "Your logic is sound, Admiral. I support the recommendation to abandon the invasion. But I also support monitoring Earth closely. If these humans develop FTL capability, we need to know immediately." Other counselors voiced their agreement. The decision was made. The bombardment fleet would withdraw from Earth orbit. The invasion was canceled. Humanity would remain free, at least for now. After the council session ended, and remained in his ready room, looking at the image of Earth on his display. A beautiful planet, really. Blues and greens and whites swirling in patterns that suggested peace and tranquility. But he knew better now. That planet was a fortress, and the species that lived there were guardians who had spent their entire history learning to defend it. In the Nevada desert, Sergeant Maria stood with her crew, watching the night sky. Telescopes tracked the alien ships in orbit. They'd been there for 3 days now, not moving, not attacking, just hanging in space like they were thinking about something. "Sarge, you think they're coming back?" Maria thought about the drones they'd shot down. She thought about the coordination between different bases, different nations, all working together for the first time in history. She thought about the stockpiles of ammunition, the training exercises, the decades of experience that had gone into building Earth's defenses. "Maybe," she said, "but if they do, we'll be ready." As she spoke, the alien ships began to move. Not down toward Earth, but up, away, accelerating toward the outer system. The telescopes tracked them until they vanished, gone to wherever alien ships went when they gave up on invasions. Around the world, soldiers at anti-aircraft batteries stood down from full alert. The immediate threat was over, but everyone knew this might not be the end. There were aliens out there, in the vast darkness between stars, and now they knew about Earth. Colonel Reeves addressed the Joint Chiefs in a secure briefing. "The alien fleet has departed the system. We're tracking them as long as we can, but they'll be beyond our sensor range soon." "Did we win?" someone asked. "We survived," Reeves corrected. "We showed them that Earth isn't an easy target. Whether they come back, whether other aliens show up, that's unknown. But we learned something important today." He pulled up images of the destroyed drones, the engagement statistics, the global coordination between militaries that had spent centuries fighting each other. "We learned that all those years of warfare, all that death and destruction and technological development, it wasn't for nothing. We built defenses against each other, and those defenses work just fine against aliens. Our sky belongs to us, and anyone who forgets that pays a heavy price." Doctor added her analysis. "The alien technology is impressive, but it's optimized for space combat. They're not prepared for atmospheric warfare against a well-defended planet. That gives us an advantage, at least in our own airspace. They're better than us in space. We're better than them in atmosphere. That's the balance." "For now," Reeves said, "they might develop countermeasures. They might come back with different tactics. We need to stay ahead. Research their technology, improve our defenses, prepare for the next encounter." He looked around the room at the military leaders from a dozen nations. "And we need to stay unified. They saw us working together. That scared them more than the weapons themselves. If we go back to fighting each other, we're vulnerable. But if we stand together, we're strong." In the weeks that followed, humanity tried to process what had happened. The alien visit became front-page news around the world. Governments released limited information about the engagement, carefully balancing public awareness with security concerns. The message was clear. Earth had faced an alien threat and successfully defended itself. The wreckage of the drones was distributed to research facilities worldwide. Scientists studied the alien technology, learning what they could. The materials, the power systems, the sensors, all of it represented knowledge that could advance human technology by decades. But the biggest change was social. Nations that had been rivals found themselves cooperating. Military forces that had trained to fight each other instead trained together. The aliens had done something that humans had never managed on their own. They'd united the planet against a common threat. At Firebase Delta, Maria and her crew went back to routine operations, training exercises, equipment maintenance, readiness drills. But everything felt different now. They'd shot down alien drones. They'd defended Earth. They were part of history. "Think they'll come back, Sarge?" someone asked during a break. Maria looked up at the sky, squinting against the bright desert sun. "Maybe, maybe not, but we'll be here if they do." She thought about the somewhere out in space, probably updating their databases, adding Earth to their list of planets with a special note, dangerous. Humans defend their sky, approach with caution. That thought made her smile. Humanity had always been good at fighting. Too good, maybe. They'd spent thousands of years fighting each other, refining the art of warfare into a science. And when the aliens came expecting an easy conquest, they'd learned the hard lesson. Humans might fight among themselves, but they knew how to defend their home. The anti-aircraft batteries stood ready, pointing at the sky. Missiles in their launchers, ammunition in their magazines, crews trained and prepared. Earth's defenses, built through centuries of conflict, now stood guard against the stars. The message was clear, written in the wreckage of drones scattered across the planet. This sky belongs to us. Anyone who doubts it is welcome to try, but they'd better bring a lot more than 3,000 drones. Because humans had spent 10,000 years learning to shoot things out of the air, and they'd gotten very, very good at it.